Please be seated. The court is now back in session. Before the chamber hands the floor to the defense counsels for the accused to put question to this witness, the chamber would like to notify to all the relevant parties that 20 minutes towards remaining of this hearing session, that is 20 to 4, the chamber will give the floor to the parties, in particular to Nguyen Chi's defense, to provide oral arguments and reasons for their submission to adjourn the hearings of certain witnesses so that they could review relevant documents that the co-prosecutors request to have them transferred from case 004 into the current case, and in particular the documents related to TCW 803 and through TCW 809, who have been scheduled by the chamber to testify from tomorrow onward. So once again, the chamber will spend 20 minutes of the remaining session today before we adjourn the hearing to provide the floor to all the concerned parties. And I'd like now to hand the floor to Judge Fans.
Just to clarify, in case there was a translation issue, the 20 minutes are not to provide arguments on the complete motion, because this hasn't been filed yet, and we are not dealing with non-filed motions. However, we note that one part of the motion, which is already also mentioned in the email, pertains to the next witness. So please, arguments in the afternoon are exclusively to be focused on the reasons on why 803 and 807 should be deferred. Sorry, 809.
Thank you, Judge Fentz. I'll be happy to do that later this afternoon. If the bench now gives us oral permission to file in one language, then it is filed. The reason it's not filed yet because we're still being busy translating.
We are not complaining. It's just an issue that our national colleagues can't read it. And I think with an issue like this, everybody should be in a position to understand your arguments.
I fully appreciate that, but then wouldn't you think it would be more appropriate to await the full Khmer translation of our motion and have our arguments first thing or sometime in the morning, tomorrow morning, when we are finished with our cross-examination?
When do you expect a translation?
Probably sometime during the course of the morning, tomorrow morning.
A23 is scheduled as the next one. He is already here as a reserve.
I understand that. That's why we try to do it as fast as possible. But, well, it's up to you to balance full understanding of our motion in Khmer language versus the also understandable position of the next witness. But that's up to the bench.
President Judge Lavenge, you have the floor.
Yes, I would like to make a correction because I hear of witness 803 and 809, but I just wanted to point out that it is witness 803, and we also have witness 809 and the application concerns the two witnesses. So the 20 minutes are both for the defense and the other parties.
President, thank you, Judge. The Chamber would like now to hand the floor to the defense team for Noon Chea first to put the questions to this witness. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. I would like to start asking a few questions about some people who were detained at Krang Tacham. And Mr. Witness, I would like to start with reading a short excerpt from your statement to investigators of the investigating judge. That is E319133. Question A9090. The question is, and I read as follows: do you know about arrests made in Srei Kru village? Initially, in 1977, your answer, they arrested members of two families, including wives and children from the village of Srei Kru. But later, in 1979, they released the wives and their children back into the village. I was the one who led the wives and children back to the village. 4 other people were also arrested and sent to Krang Tacham prison. Question 91. Do you remember their names? And your answer, and I quote, the members of the first family were Kun, the husband of Yina, and their children Ka, Rat, and another one whom I cannot recall. Kun was detained at Krang Tacham prison. The members of the second family were Rat, daughter of Kun and Yina, who was married to Bun, a detainee at Krang Tacham prison. The other 4 people included Sot, San, and 2 other people whose names I cannot recall. Tasot and Tasan were detained at Krang Tacham prison and survived to the end of the Khmer Rouge regime. But I do not know whether they are alive or dead now. Sot and San lived in Srei Kru village. And then the final question, 92, are any of them living today? And you reply, Yena lives in Srei Kru village. Mr. Witness, is that an accurate description of your answer that you gave to the investigators?
Yes, it is.
In your answer to the investigators in D423, page 4 of the English version, that is ERN English 002232110, Khmer 001655354, and French 004900909. Mr. Witness, in your answer, you refer to Yina, grandmother Nor, as your aunt. Is that correct? Is grandmother Nor in fact your aunt?
There are 2 grandmother-in-laws. One was my aunt. And the family of my aunt used to live at Ampel Baidam during the Lunala regime, but I haven't met her for a long time.
So, grandmother Nar, who is the mother of Rat and Ka, is not your aunt. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yes.
Mr. Witness, in your answer to the investigating judges, E319133, in question A167, you are saying on the question, did you ever communicate with any of the prisoners? And your answer, I often gave food to them, such as to Yi Na. She still praises me for that today. Who is this your aunt that you're referring to, or not your aunt that you're referring to?
In that instance, I did not refer to my aunt.
Very well. And in your statement D4023, in the middle of, on top of page 7, that is English ERN 00223213, Khmer 00165357, and French 00490912. The question is, do you know where the survivor Yi Na is living? And you answer, I know Yi Na. She is at Srekur village, Cheng Ton sub-district, because she visits me often with her children and grandchildren since she survived because of me having given her food to eat. Is my understanding that this is not the mother of Rat and Ka that you're referring to, but the other grandmother Nar?
Yes, that's my aunt, Nyo.
Are you also in contact with the other grandmother Nor, the mother of Ka and Rad, or not at all?
At present time, yes, we maintain our contact between the two families.
Would you be able to tell us how often both families meet with each other in, let's say, the last 5 or 10 years?
Usually, I would see her at her house with the family once or twice a month, because sometimes I travel across her place of residence.
Now you're talking about your aunt. Well, my question was, would you be able to tell us if and when the two families met with each other in the last 5 or 10 years?
Since she left to live along the border, I lost contact with her.
Let me rephrase my question. In the last 5 or 10 years, have you spoken to Mia Soka and his mother? Have you spoken to Sai Sen about anything?
Please repeat your question.
My question is about the contacts that you have with the other family, the other grandmother Nor, who is the mother of Ka and Rat. Are you meeting them often? Are the two families meeting each other often? Could you shed some light on that?
I have not visited her at her home during the last 2 months.
Fair enough, but how about the last 5 years or 10 years?
Usually I would be invited to attend any religious ceremony, and she would send her children to come to invite me to attend it.
Have you talked to any of the members of your family or members of the other family, grandmother Nor, etc., about events that happened during the regime of Democratic Kampuchea?
My relationship or a contact with your family was a social one, and we did not talk about what happens during the DK regime.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Witness. In your statement to the investigating judge E319133, in answer 223, you state as follows. Question: can you give me the names of any of those who survived the Krang Tacham prison that you know? And you answer, Yi Na presently lives in Srei Kru village, Chung Tong commune, Cham Kok district. Yit Rat lives in the United States of America. Sot and San live near Yi Na. How do you know, Mr. Witness, that Yi Rat lives in the United States of America?
When I went to visit Yinyo told me about it. First, Ye Rat went to study in Vietnam, and then she returns to Phnom Penh. She then got married, and she went to live in the United States.
Did she tell you how long her daughter lives in the United States already?
I did not know when she left for America, as I did not ask about it.
Did you ever yourself speak with Rat?
I met her in 1979.
Did you ever speak recently to Rat?
Since she went to the United States of America, I have not met her or spoken to her.
Maybe I didn't get that answer, but do you know around which year she went to the United States?
Neither do I. Junior simply told me that she went to the States, and she did not tell me when she left for the States.
Did she tell you in which city Rat lives?
No.
What is the relation, do you know, between Sai Sen and grandmother Nar?
to talk about Soy Sai. I don't know any person by the name of Soy Sai, but if you refer to Soy Sam, yes, I know that person.
I apologize for my pronunciation, but I mean Soy Sen, the person that we spoke about earlier during your testimony. Do you know what his relation is, if any, with grandmother Noor?
No, I don't.
គ្រាន់តែ
And I don't have any contact with him either, and he was also a former prisoner there.
Do you know if she, grandmother Noor, considered him, Sai Sen, as her foster son or adopted son or some equivalent of that?
No, I don't know the relationship between Soy San and her.
Do you know if Sai Sen had a different name in the period between 1970 and 1979?
No, I don't. I only know his name as Soy San.
Does the name Kut Sen mean anything to you?
No, that name doesn't ring a bell.
Mr. Witness, we spoke earlier about Raad and about her husband, Mombun. Do you know anything about the reason why Mombun was arrested and detained at Krang Tachan?
No, I don't know anything in that regard. I only saw him when he was sent there.
When exactly he was sent there, we'll get back to that later, Mr. Witness. Do you know anything about the reasons for the arrest and detention of the husband of grandmother Noor, Mias Kun?
No, I don't.
When I say that they might have had an argument with the village chief Nop, does that refresh your memory?
No, I don't know anything about that, and I also did not ask her about it.
Do you know anything about allegations against Mombun, the husband of Raad, of raping an April 17 person with the name of Korn, coming from Oosvaichak?
No, I don't.
Coming back to the question whether Mombun and Mias Kun and their respective wives were already in Krang Tachan when you arrived, or that they arrived in Krang Tachan after you had come. If I recall correctly, you gave mixing answers, changing answers. Can you remember, try to remember well and answer the question whether they were already there or had been already there when you came, or that they came after you had arrived?
I was there before they arrived.
Did you see them come in? Did you see them being brought in as prisoners?
Yes, I did.
Were you maybe, in fact, one of the guards who picked them up at the outside gate and brought them into the prison compound, or was that somebody else?
Answer. The other persons brought them in.
Do you remember them sitting in one of the two prison buildings being shackled?
Answer. I am not aware of this because I was guarding outside.
Did you see them being walked from the detention building until the interrogation room?
Answer. No, I did not.
Do I take it that you also didn't see them being interrogated?
No, I did not see that.
Do you know when their respective wives arrived at Krang Tachan?
Answer. I did not recall the dates exactly. I just saw them there together with their children.
I understand that you don't remember the date, but would you be able to give us an estimate as to when the wives arrived and the time or the moment that their husbands arrived at Krang Tachan?
Answer. The husband had arrived first, and after 1 or 2 weeks, the wife arrived.
Did you see them in shackles in the detention building?
Answer. I did not enter the compound.
So then you didn't see them being taken from the detention building till the interrogation room. Is that correct?
Answer. Yes, that is correct.
I will move on to a different subject now, Mr. Witness. In your statement to the investigating judges, at A26 and 27, you answer the following. After April 1975, let me read the question first, Mr. Witness. The question is, before you worked at Krang Tachan, where had you worked? And you answer A26. After April 1975, before I came to work at Krang Tachan, I was a soldier near Phnom Dam Rai Romil Mountain. I was stationed at Phnom Dam Rai Romil Mountain. Question. What did they have you do when you were stationed at Phnom Dam Rai Romil Mountain? Answer, I was on guard at the foot of the mountain waiting to capture the enemy, but there were no enemies at the time. Can you give us some more details as to what you mean with at the foot of the mountain? Where exactly is the foot of the mountain?
Answer. Dam Rai Romil Mountain. It is a range of mountain. The range start from National Road number 3 to Trabai area.
That's correct. It's west of Krang Tachan prison, but the mountain range is quite long. When you say at the foot of the mountain, where exactly, which position are you referring to? Which part of the mountain?
Answer. I was stationed in Tropang Lien village, Kus commune, Tramkak district.
Let me try it differently. When you speak about the foot of the mountains, the exact spot that you're referring to, were there, for instance, waterfalls close by?
Answer. There were no waterfalls. The place where I was stationed was in Tropang Lien village, Kus commune, Tram district.
But you're referring in your testimony that you were stationed at the foot of the mountain. Let me refresh your memory by reading another part of your testimony, that is D40/23, English page 7, English ERN 00223213, French 00490912, and Khmer 00165357. The question is, do you know where prisoners were taken to be killed? Your answer, I know it was in the fenced wall compound of the office. Question, how do you know that? Because, your answer, on the days when they set out the plan, they had a meeting. A moment later, they transported them to the mountains. But I don't know where they transported them to throw them away. Now, there again, you speak about the mountains. Are these the same mountains that you refer to when you were stationed at the foot of the mountains?
Answer, the mountains here refer to Dam Rai Romil Mountain.
So that's not the same place that you were stationed in 1975. Is that correct?
Answer, yes, that is correct.
So the place at the foot of the mountain, or at the mountain where they took the prisoners, were there waterfalls close by?
បាទអត់ដឹង
Answer, I do not know.
Was there a dam close by?
បាទ
Answer, there were many dams, dam, Tamang Dam, at the base of the mountain.
But the place where you said they took prisoners, was there a dam close by? And if yes, which dam was it?
Answer, there were many dams, and I did not know whether Damrero Mill there was a dam close to that mountain.
Let me try it differently. Mr. Witness, do you know if there was a place where people were executed at the foot of the mountain, the foot of the Damril mountain?
Answer, actually I knew that prisoners were transported out of the center, and I did not know where exactly they were sent to, which mountain exactly they were sent to.
So just to be clear, you only knew that when prisoners were taken out of Krang Tachan, they were brought to the mountains. Is that, do I understand that correctly?
Answer, yes, you are right.
Can you tell us how often prisoners were taken out of Krang Tachan and brought to the mountains?
Answer, I knew that it happened only once.
Can you tell me something about this one time that you saw or knew about it? When exactly was that?
It was at night time, and I did not know how many prisoners were taken out. It was at night time.
Can you tell us how you knew about that? How did you know that prisoners were taken to the mountains?
President, please hold on, Mr. Witness. You shall wait for the microphone activation. I was asked to guard the tracks.
How many trucks were there?
Actually, there were no tracks within the compound. Tracks was driven from outside, and there was only one track.
And what exactly was your duty? What did they make you do?
Answer, I was asked to guard the outside area.
And what exactly do you remember you saw?
Answer, I did not see anything.
But you spoke about a truck. So you, I gather, saw a truck. Can you give us some more details?
Answer, the truck arrived at night time, and I was told in advance that the truck would arrive at night time.
Did you see prisoners being loaded into the truck?
Answer, I did not see. There was no lights, so I could not see.
Mr. Witness, on page 7 of your statement, D4023, on the very last question, so I don't have to, I think, give the ERNs, the very last question of your statement. The question is being asked, while you worked at this office, did you ever see any high-level leader go to inspect there? And then your answer, only P and Duik, who worked at Tram Krak district. They often rode motorcycles and vehicles there. Earlier there was a question about P, and you called him handicapped P, if I remember correctly. What more can you tell us about P?
Answer, I did not know P's background, and he was referred to the handicapped P, and everyone in Tram Krak district knew the handicapped P.
Was it because his leg was amputated? Do you know anything about that?
Answer, I never asked anything about him, and this person P, when he arrived at the place, he would talk to only the high leaders.
Do you know what happened to P after 1979?
Answer, I do not know after that, but at that time I could see P arrives at the place very often.
Do you know if P was executed in 1979 or 1980?
Answer, I do not know.
Another topic, Mr. Witness, that is your answers to questions 1A, 127 up until A130, that is E319.133. Question from the investigators, Mr. Witness, is as follows. You just mentioned a moment ago about the arrests made in Tram Krak district with regard to light offenders and serious offenders. We would like you to give examples of or distinguish between those who fell under the light offenders and serious offender category. Your answer, 127. Light offenders included those who stole potatoes or chicken or raped women. Serious offenders included political prisoners and men and women who fornicated. Their punishment was to soil on shoulder poles. Question, was rape a light offense? The victim, you answer, was a light offender, while the rapist was a serious offender. Question, was the victim also punished? Yes, they were, but they were released. Question, in what category were the prisoners who were sent to Krang Tachan security office? To my knowledge, you answer, 130, serious offenders were sent to Krang Tachan security office, light offenders were not sent there. Can you tell the chamber what your knowledge is of the difference between light and serious offenders? How do you know that?
Answer. I do not know how the offenders were determined, and the light offenders were not sent to Krang Tachan, and as for serious offender, they would be sent to Krang Tachan Security Office. I did not attend the meeting, so I did not know how they were determined whether those people were light offender or serious offenders.
I understand that you don't know the answer to specific people, but could you tell us how you know, or what the basis is of your knowledge about this general distinction between light offenders and serious offenders? Is that something maybe that you heard while you were a guard at Krang Tachan prison?
Answer. I heard about this from another guard.
Which guard?
Answer. Sieng told me that serious offender were to be sent to Krang Tachan Security Office, and as for light offender, they would not be sent there. And I was asked to be cautious and to be careful of these offenders.
And do you remember how he knew about this?
Answer. Sieng was a party member.
Very well. Another topic, Mr. Witness, you spoke about that already earlier. That is question in E319133, question 138. You are being asked by the investigators the following. After 17 April 75, when the Lon Nol had been defeated by the Khmer Rouge, what happened to the Lon Nol soldiers and white scarves? Your answer, 138, they evacuated them all. Question 139. At Krang Tachan, 140. At Krang Tachan Security Office, were there any prisoners who were former Lon Nol soldiers? While I worked at Krang Tachan Security Center, there were none. Question. After you had worked for a period of time at Krang Tachan Security Office, were any former Lon Nol soldiers sent there? Your answer, no. After 17 April 75, did you know if former Lon Nol soldiers and their families had been taken away for execution? Your answer, I did not know about that since I was in the rear ranks. Once the provincial town of Takeo had been captured, I was moved back to the district. Last question, 143. As a soldier, after the victory on 17 April 1975, did you ever receive any instructions with regard to encounters with former Lon Nol soldiers? And you answer to the investigators, no. They just had us send Lon Nol soldiers back to their hometowns. Is that, in fact, what you told the investigators?
Yes, this is my statement. It is true.
How can you be sure that the prisoners who were at Krang Tachan were not in fact former Lon Nol soldiers or officers?
Answer. People were talking about this from one another, and I did not know where this information was from.
So to the best of your knowledge, there were no former Lon Nol soldiers or or officers detained in Krang Tachan prison. Is that your testimony?
Bah.
Answer, yes.
I would like to take you back now to another answer, a different subject. That is D4023, page 5 in the English version. French ERN 00490909, Khmer ERN 00165354. The question in the middle of the page, did you ever see them kill prisoners while you were working at the Krang Tachan office? Your answer, I never saw it. I will get back to that. I know that while I was working there, I was the youngest one of all. And perhaps since they always feared a breach of secrecy, that may have been why they did not let me know. And my question now is about the second part of that sentence. They always feared a breach of secrecy. What exactly did you mean when you gave that answer with the fear of breach of secrecy?
Bah.
Answer, they were afraid that if I walk anywhere and met people, they were afraid that I would talk about this to people. That is why they did not let me know.
I understand that. Do you remember what exactly your orders or instructions were? Were you specifically instructed or ordered not to speak to villagers about events that took place within the compound of Krang Tachan?
Answer, I was not given any order. I received an instruction that I should shut my mouth.
That might seem a little bit technical point, but I just want to be sure that I understand correctly. You were a former soldier. What exactly is the difference between an instruction and an order? Were you only told, or were you ordered in your capacity as a soldier not to speak to villagers?
Bah.
Answer, I was threatened and I warned not to let anything out of my mouth, and if I talk about it, I would be in danger.
And do you remember, it's a long time ago I understand, but do you remember the exact words when you were threatened not to tell anything about what happened at Krang Tachan?
Bah. But forgot.
Answer, that is true.
What is true?
Answer, I was told that when I learned any information from outside, I should not say anything about it. Otherwise, my head would fall down on the earth.
Maybe there went something wrong in translation, but were you specifically instructed not to speak to outsiders, for instance villagers, as to what happened at Krang Tachan while you were at Krang Tachan?
Answer, I was not allowed to go and make any contact with the people outside the compounds the compound, there were 2 levels of fences surrounding the compound.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Witness. But we have heard the testimony of another witness, the person that we just spoke about, Sai Sen. He told the chamber that he was allowed to leave the compound, tending the cows. Do you know if he had any instructions not to speak to villagers about what happened at Krang Tachan?
Personally, I never spoke to Soy San. Maybe he received his instructions from his chief. If there is the case, I would not know.
Well, if I understood the testimony of Sai Sen correctly, and also the testimony of Mia Soka, they were allowed, apparently, so they say, to wander around tending the cows. Do you know about any instruction to Mia Soka not to speak to villagers?
The two of them tended the cows, but I did not know about the instructions relayed between their chief and them.
The instructions or orders or whatever they were not to speak to anybody about what happened at Krang Tachan. Did that also apply to your fellow guards, the 5 other guards within your unit? Did they have that same order or instruction?
I was specifically instructed on that issue because I was the youngest member of the unit.
Well, my question was whether you know whether the fellow members of your unit had similar instructions. Do you know anything about that?
I only met one person, and I was instructed not to say anything.
I apologize, Mr. Witness. Maybe my questions are not very clear, but my question was relating to the fellow members of your unit. You were a military unit. I take it you received orders. Do you know whether the other members of your unit, like Duik, for instance, or Saing, whether they received orders not to speak to anybody about what happened at Krang Tachan?
I did not know if they did, because I only knew what I was told. As for San or Dutch, they could receive instructions, but I did not know what instructions were given to them.
Mr. Witness, I myself have never been in the military, but isn't it true, and wasn't that also the case within the Revolutionary Army, that instructions were given to units or platoons or battalions as a group, or am I mistaken?
In the army, the commander issued order. But when I was at the Krang Tachan office, we were no longer under the military command, and our instruction was to guard the Krang Tachan office. And in practice, under the military command. For example, if we were to attack or to engage in a battlefield, then there would be a meeting, and in the meeting there would be plans, and the plans would be relayed to all members of the unit engaged in such a battlefield.
And you're saying that this was not the practice in relation to your unit, which was stationed at Krang Tachan?
Yes, that is correct.
My next question, Mr. Witness, that is your answer to question 163, document E319133. Did Ta An ever tell you, is the question, tell you or give you instructions on how to behave with prisoners? And your answer is, he instructed us to be gentle but firm with the prisoners. Now, I won't ask you a question about the us. I'll ask you a question about to be gentle but firm with the prisoners. Do you remember this specific order? And are you able to tell us what he meant with that specific order?
The word firm but gentle at that time was commonly used. We had to be gentle, but at the same time we had to be firm.
I understand your answer. However, earlier testimony you indicated that possibly prisoners were being tortured, were being executed. Don't you think, or did you think at the time that that was a strange order, or you had no ideas or no thoughts about that specific order to treat the prisoners firm but gently?
On this point, I myself did not understand it.
Fair enough, but the order you remember specifically, firm but gentle treatment of prisoners, correct?
Yes.
Do you remember in which year, or in which year specifically this order was given? Were you there already for a long time or only a short time? Do you remember?
During meetings, it was one of the main points that they raised.
So it was told to your unit more than once? Is that your testimony?
Yes.
And at these meetings, do I understand correctly, your fellow unit members were present and heard this order as well?
There are two kinds of meeting. A meeting held for the staff working inside the Krang Tachan office, and a meeting held for us, the guards, outside.
I'm asking you about questions about the meeting with your fellow unit members. You were told as a group several times, is that correct, to be gentle but firm with prisoners?
Yes.
And let me revisit my earlier question. These group sessions, when you received this order, were there also other orders given to you and your unit members?
They did not give through many instructions. They only spoke on the main points, including this one.
And do you remember which other points were discussed or other points that you were given instructions on?
As for them, they held meetings only among themselves, the senior people. As for us, we were the outside guards, and usually the meetings that were held for us was held once a month. President, thank you, Council. It is now a convenient time for a short break. We will take a break now and resume at 3 o'clock. And court officer, please assist the witness during the break and invite him, including his duty counsel, back to the courtroom at 3 o'clock. The court is now in recess.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រុងឈរ